బయటపడాలంటే I think we need to have this kind of changes and debate and it's necessary. I think in these few points I think I stop here. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much, sir. సార్ దగ్గరికి ఈ యొక్క జస్ట్ ఈ రోజును కన్ఫర్డ్ చేసిన మహాత్మా అనే బిరుదు కొరకు మల్లేశం సారు శ్రీనివాస్ సార్ నేను వెళ్ళినప్పుడు జస్ట్ అట్లా కార్ ల్యాండింగ్ చేసి ఒక టాక్ పెడదామని అంటే సార్ అన్నాడు కదా, అట్లా కాదు, ఒక డే లాంగ్ సెషన్ ఉండి ఎవరైతే స్పీకర్స్ ఉన్నారో మెయిన్ ఆ రోజుల్లో పనిచేసిన వాళ్ళందరూ కూడా పిలిచి పెడితే బాగుంటుందని ఒక చర్చ రావడం, ఆ ఐడియాను ఒక 1 వీక్ లోపట్లనే మేము దాన్ని కన్సాలిడేట్ చేసి మరి ఇది ఇంత ఫ్రూట్ఫుల్గా జరుగుతుందని చాలా హ్యాపీగా అనిపిస్తాను సార్. ఈరోజు రావడం మరి అనేక రకాలుగా స్పీకర్స్ అందరూ కూడా అవైలబుల్ ఉండడం, కొంతమంది ఇంకా వచ్చేది ఉండే సారు కంచేరయ్య సార్ కానీ మరి అదే అనివార్య కారణాల వల్ల వాళ్ళు ప్రీ ఆక్యుపైడ్ ఉండడం వల్ల రాలేకపోయారు. ఈరోజు మీ యొక్క స్పీచ్ విన్న తర్వాత ఈ యొక్క మూమెంటంకు ఇది కన్సల్టేట్ చేసినట్టు భావించి దీన్ని ఒక బుక్లెట్ తెచ్చేందుకు కూడా మేము ప్రయత్నం చేస్తాం షార్ట్లీ త్వరలోనే సార్. మిగతా ఏరియాస్ ఏవైతుండో ఆ ఏరియాస్ను కూడా ఇన్వైట్ చేసి వాటన్నిటిపైన ఒక బుక్ను కూడా బుక్ ఫామ్లో తీసుకొని వస్తాం. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ సార్. ఐ రిక్వెస్ట్ స్మాల్ ఆఫరింగ్ ఫర్ ది సెల్ స్టేషన్. ప్లీజ్ రెడీ సార్. బిఫోర్ దట్ ప్రారంభోత్సవ కార్యక్రమానికి విచ్చేసిన ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి కూడా పేరు పేరున ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియ. టెక్నికల్ సెషన్. ఇన్ దిస్ సెషన్ we have 2 eminent speakers, Professor Adapa Satyanarayana sir, Department of History, Osmania University, and also Professor I. Tirumali, Department of History, Delhi University. Now I request, please come to the dais. Professor Adapa sir and also Tirumali sir. Now I request Srinivas sir to give the fruit bouquet to Adapa sir. And also now invite Madhavi, Dr. Madhavi. I am very happy to share with you few glimpses of their biodata. Professor Adapa sir and also the Tirumali sir. Professor Adapa Satyanarayana sir is a retired professor of history, Osmania University. He obtained DPhil degree in the South Asia history from the Heidelberg University, Germany. He joined the Osmania University as an assistant professor of history in 1984 and served about the 30 years of service. During his academic career, Adapa published more than 60 articles and also the 10 books. His area of the specialization is socio-economic history of modern India with focus on the Dalit Bahujan subaltern studies. For his academic achievements, he was awarded postdoctoral fellowship and visiting professorship by many foreign countries. He was a visiting DAD professor, Jakob University, Berlin, Germany, 2009 to 2011, and visiting professor of India Studies Chair, Martin Luther University, Halle, Germany, 2007, March 2008. Visiting fellow, Center for Southeast Asian Studies, Kyoto University in Japan, and also Fitch Tyson visiting fellow, Frank Foundation and Martin Luther University, Germany. Visiting fellowship, International Institute of Social History, Amsterdam, the Netherlands, 1999 to 2000. Visiting fellow, Center for Modern Oriental Studies, Berlin in Germany. Sara has many fellowships the Junior Fellow and also the Nehru Memorial Museum Fellow, NML, Library, New Delhi, Tinmurti Bhavan. Since 1984, Professor Satyanarayana sir has successfully guided 15 MPhil dissertations and also the 15 PhD thesis. Presently also having 6 more students for the under his guidance. And the academic contribution of Satyanarayana sir received State Award to the Meritorious Teacher 2009 by the Government of Andhra Pradesh. He was also a nominated member of the Indian Council of Historical Research 2008 to 2014 and Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. Sir also written and also the editor many books which include economy, society and polity, studies in agrarian history and also the Dalits and upper caste, SS in the social history, the Andhra peasant under the British rule 1990 to 1940 New Delhi. Sir, we are very happy and honored, very inviting you sir for this session. And also Professor Tirumali sir also have 30 pages of biodata, but I just summarizing. Professor Tirumali sir is an Indian historian and also an activist for the separate Telangana statehood movement. He is a chairman of Joint Action Committee of the Telangana Praja Sanghalu. Tirumali sir also the Department of History at the Delhi University. He has authored book Telangana and Feudalism in Telangana. He is the Vice President of the Telangana Intellectual Forum. Tirumali sir did his MA in History, Osmania University, MPhil in Agrarian Relations on Telangana, his PhD thesis, Telangana Peasant Movement, both from the Center for the Historical Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Sir also published a number of books against Dora and Nizam, People's Movement in Telangana 1939 to 1948. It has also come out for the Telugu, Tiragabadda, Telangana. And also the marriage, love and caste perceptions on the Telugu women during the colonial period. This is also published in the next repressed discourses essays in honor of the Professor Savechasi Bhattacharya, Telangana, Andhra, caste, regions and politics in Andhra. Recent book also are published India, nation and its people, caste and also the parties in the making of democracy. Sir also published in research papers like Dora and Gadi, manifestos of landlord domination in Telangana and also the peasant class assertion in Nalgonda and also Warangal district in Telangana in 1932-46. India, economic and social history of the review also he has published in EPW and many newspapers in Telugu and also the English paper. Now I invite you sir for the today's talk. So now sir, now I invite Professor Adapa Satyanarayana to deliver first lecture.
At the outset, I thank Professor Chalamala Venkateswarlu for giving me this opportunity and in organizing this great seminar on Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. As mentioned in the morning, I think it was in the 1990s, a decade of social turmoil, a decade of movements from below, social and political movements, and it was also a decade in which there was a major shift in the government's policies from public sector to privatization. Therefore, in that context, I think some of us, myself, Tirumali, Simhadri, PLV, and a couple of others, Srinivasulu, we gathered and then we wanted to look at the changing scenario in India. And on the other hand, we have the social movements from below, the Mandal movement. So it occurred to us that we need to understand as to how this new shift has come about. Because all of us in the Satyasadak Samaj had a kind of a Marxist background. We were guided by the class approach, class struggle approach. And of course, we were also the products being in Osmania University in the 1970s of the radical left movement. So then it occurred to us that there is something wrong, or something, there is a gap in our understanding of class struggles in the context of the Mandal and Kamandal hesitations. So then we, couple of us, in the group, try to reflect as to what is the centrality of the Indian social reality. Is it class or caste? Then it occurred to us, of course, class Marxist analysis, historical liberalism is a guiding principle, is a guiding force, a guiding framework. But it occurred to us that Marxist perspective, the class approach has some limitations. So therefore, in our attempt to rectify that kind of a lacuna in our understanding, we turn to the Mahatma Phule and of course Dr. Ambedkar, because till 1990s or late 80s, I think at least I am unaware of Ambedkar, because we were so enamored with Marxist approach, Marxist literature. We read so much of Lenin, Stalin, Mao, and so on, but we haven't read much on Dr.B.R.Ambedkar. We were ignorant in a way, because my own teachers in Osmania or in JNU, they did not teach us, about these Indian thinkers, like Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Dr.B.R.Ambedkar, and a host of others. So then the success of the group, we reflected, and then we conducted a series of discussions. And in this context, I think Murli Manohar sir is not there, but it's in this context we organized a national seminar in Kakatiya University. In those days, Kakatiya University Vice-Chancellor was a great scholar, but he was a bit skeptical. Are ఏమండి ఇక్కడ కాస్ట్ మీద చర్చ పెడతారా, అమ్మో కాస్ట్ మీద సెమినార్ పెడతారా, కాస్ట్ అంటే భయం. ఆయన వైస్ ఛాన్సలర్ గారు కొంత హెసిటేట్ అయ్యిండు. అక్కడ మా మిత్రుడు, మా సీనియర్ బొబ్బిలి, ప్రొఫెసర్ బొబ్బిలి ఉన్నాడు. లేదండి, కాస్ట్ అనేది సోషల్ రియాలిటీ, దాన్ని మనం అట్లా కాదంటాం, మీరు ఎందుకు భయపడుతున్నారు అంటే, దట్ వాజ్ ఎ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ ఏ ఇంటలెక్చువల్ అట్మాస్ఫియర్ దట్ we didn't want to talk about caste relations, the relevance of caste. ఎందుకంటే మన అండర్స్టాండింగ్ అంతా కూడా ఈ క్లాస్ మార్క్సిస్ట్ పర్స్పెక్టివ్లో ఉన్నటువంటి కాంటెక్స్ట్ అది. సో కాబట్టి అప్పుడే నేను couple of us, then we discovered Mahatma Jyotiba Phule was the foremost theoretician, was the foremost scholar who made caste as central to his thinking. Just as Karl Marx put class as a central focus of his analysis, it was Mahatma Jyotiba Phule who, the foremost scholar in 19th century India, who put caste, because he realized caste is the social reality of India. I think when the Communist Manifesto was printed in 1848, that was the same year, in which Jyotiba Phule wrote his Gulamgiri. Now, in my kind of exposition today, I just want to highlight Mahatma Jyotiba Phule as a social revolutionary of modern India. You see, why I call Jyotiba Phule as a social revolutionary? Precisely because Mahatma Jyotiba Phule occupies a unique position among the social reformers of modern India. Whereas the upper caste reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Ishwachandra Vidyasagar, Mahatma Govind Ranade, etc., concentrated more on reforming the social evils like sati, widow remarriage, with a special emphasis on the status and right of women. Jyotiba Phule revolted against the unjust caste system under which the downtrodden communities had suffered for centuries. He was also a staunch critic of Indian social order and Brahmanical Hinduism. I think central to Jyotiba Phule's thought are critiquing the Indian social order, that is caste system, and Brahmanical Hinduism. Because Mahatma Jyotiba Phule was, again, as the foremost scholar who has seen the dialectical relationship between the caste system and the Brahmanical ideology. The Brahmanical ideology was the justifying theory and philosophy of caste system. Caste system is a byproduct of the Brahmanical ideology. So therefore there is this intrinsic, dialectical relationship between caste and Brahmanical ideology. I think for his contribution in critiquing caste system and Brahmanical ideology, I think the credit must be given to Jyotiba Phule than any other social revolutionary of modern India. Of course, Dr.B.R.Ambedkar followed it. As we all know, Dr.B.R.Ambedkar acknowledged Jyotiba Phule as one of his gurus. So it shows the significance of his theory, of his philosophy. So therefore, Jyotiba Phule during the late 19th century fought against caste system, social evils, superstitions, and obscurantist religious beliefs and practices. In fact, of all these social religious thinkers, Mahatma Phule, Ayodhya Das, Narayana Guru, Periyar, Babasaheb Ambedkar, and such others have organized several movements for achieving equality for Dalits, backward classes, and women. I think here I counterpose because just to clarify my point. You see, in the discourse of the social history of modern India, we tend to, sort of glorify or exaggerate the role played by certain social reformers like Raja Rammohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, some is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and so on. But it occurs, at least now it is clear, in terms of the social approach and the social attitudes. These social reformers, as I mentioned, they all touched upon the issues pertaining to the Savarna caste. They are concerned with certain Brahmanical practices, not really social issues. So therefore, I don't like to call them as social reformers as such, because they did not talk about the larger society and social issues. They only touched upon the caste issues. For example, take the question of sati. Sati is a practice which was confined to 3 to 5% of the population, that too of North India, Aryavarta. The Kayasthas, the Brahmins, the Niyogis, and the Banyas. It was prevalent among the upper castes, who constitute about 3 to 5%. How can you call them social reformers? They are caste reformers, that too upper caste reformers. Whereas Jyotiba Phule was the foremost who in fact addressed the issues of Indian society in terms of focusing on the caste system, making caste system as the center. So his approach was much more universal. His approach was much more inclusive than the upper caste social reformers. So in that sense, I call Mahatma Jyotiba Phule as the social revolutionary of modern India. The second important point I would like to highlight is that he was, as I said again, I repeat, his exposition of anti-caste ideology and social revolution has attracted the attention of the Indian masses, Indian people, particularly the oppressed and suppressed. Not so much during his lifetime, the late 19th century, but certainly after Ambedkar's intervention in the 20th century. I think Jyotiba Phule's critique of caste system and his anti-caste ideology has become in fact a guiding principle to a whole lot of social movements in India during the pre-independence period, as so also during the post-independence period. Why? Because Ambedkar acknowledged Mahatma Jyotiba Phule's contribution to the understanding of the social reality of India by critiquing caste system and Brahmanical ideology, which attracted Ambedkar. Ambedkar was not so much enamored by the Marxist approach. Of course, he accepted, he acknowledged the validity of historical materialist understanding and the class perspective. But For Ambedkar also, since he was coming to grips, after his Colombo essay, which he wrote in the Colombo University on the caste. So for Ambedkar, Jyotiba Phule's understanding was very, very critical. And therefore he could develop on the Indian social revolutionaries as well as counter-revolutionaries. And then of course he became the great exponent. Baba Sahib Ambedkar became the great exponent of social emancipation of the oppressed and suppressed, taking a cue from Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. Of course, as Ambedkar himself said, he also was very much guided by Buddha's philosophy. Buddha, Jyotiba Phule were central to Ambedkar's understanding. So, therefore, this is enough to say that Jyotiba Phule's contribution as a philosopher, as a theoretician, as an ideologue of the oppressed was very, very important aspect of the modern Indian history. The second important point I would like to highlight, you see, most of the social reformers in the 19th century, they were influenced by, in the 19th century I am talking about, almost all the social reformers were influenced by the Western thought, taking cue from the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the British English Revolution, and so on and so forth. They drew their source of inspiration in terms of the ideas, in terms of their articulation, from the Western thought, mostly. And very few of them looked at the indigenous tradition, that is the Indic tradition, the Indian tradition, as to how right from the beginnings of the Indian civilization, what were the broad social trends that existed in India. You see, the Gramscian notion of domination, hegemony and resistance, domination and subordination, the intrinsic conflict that existed in the Indian society was characterized by the Indian social reformers differently. Of course, those who took the cue from the Western thought talked in terms of class conflict, from slavery to feudalism to capitalism. Very few of them, in fact, drew their inspiration from the Indic traditions, indigenous traditions. Unlike many social reformers, I think Jyotiba Phule has this distinction that he was equally influenced by the Western thought, the Western philosophical thought, particularly the writings of Thomas Paine. His famous book, The Rights of Man, influenced Jyotiba Phule very much. He was, of course, also aware of the principles of the French Revolution. So, therefore, Jyotiba Phule, being a student of a Christian missionary school, was sufficiently exposed to the Western philosophical thought and Western history, Western European history, and American Revolution, and so on. But equally, I think more than any other social reformer, Jyotiba Phule was also influenced by the Indic tradition, indigenous tradition. That is, he drew his philosophical thought from Buddhism. This is very, very important. Because Jyotiba Phule, in terms of understanding the dialectic of conflict in the Indian society, in terms of the Brahmanical ideology and what you call Sudras, is significant because, like Karl Marx, characterization of the class system in terms of the exploiters and the exploited, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Jyotiba Phule did not accept the Marxist division of society as far as India is concerned in total. He rather characterized taking into social reality by saying the Sethi Badji, versus the Sethi Bhattji versus the Praja, or broadly saying the common people. Sethi Bhattji are the exploiters of the Indian society, the Brahmin Baniya, versus the Bahujan. The Bahujan, the very concept of Bahujan is inclusive. It is contraposed to the exploiter being in police terms, Sethi and Bhattji. So it is Bahujans who became central to his analysis. It is the Bahujan emancipation that Jyotiba Phule articulated. Again, in the morning, Vice-Chancellor is giving a reference to the concept of Bahujan. Sudra, he also used this term, Sudra Ati Sudra. You see, in those days, in the 19th century, particularly the Maharashtrian context, the main contradiction was between the Sethi Bhattji and the Sudras and the Sudras. This was a broad social, category. I think that can be applied perhaps with little modification to the whole of India, if Jyotiba Phule's theory of emancipation is accepted. So Sethi Bhattji as the owners of the property, as the owners of the means of production, as the privileged, both in social and cultural terms, as the exploiters, as the oppressors, while the Sudras are the exploited, oppressed, dehumanized human beings. So therefore, just as Marxism postulated proletarian revolution as the ultimate, emancipatory idiom, Jyotiba Phule in fact counterposed the Sudra uprising, the Sudra opposition to the Sethi Bhattji. So therefore, why I am trying to insist on Jyotiba Phule's characterization of the Indian caste system and the Brahmanical ideology is to suggest that he was the foremost, he was the first social revolutionary, in my understanding, in modern India to launch a movement for the liberation of caste oppressed Sudras and Sudras. I think he specifically mentioned. Today, of course, we call the Sudra as the Bahujan, or Dalit Bahujan, or the Bahujan community. But he was, in the 19th century, itself postulated this contradiction between the Sethi Bhattji and the Sudras. As I said in the beginning, what Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Dayananda Saraswati and Vivekananda were to the elitist upper caste cultural nationalism, Phule was for the emancipation of India's long suppressed masses. The elite reformers criticized the contemporary degenerate form of Hinduism, while Phule attacked it from its very inception and showed that Brahmins had deceived lower castes throughout history. He interpreted Hinduism as a relation based on Varna and caste system devised by the cunning Brahmins to deceive the lower caste. Phule was very critical of Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj and Pradhana Samaj and derisively dismissed them as Aryan Brahmin Samajis. I mean, this is very important. While critiquing the upper caste social reformers, Phule characterized it as Aryan Brahmin Samajis. They are the associations of the Arya Brahmins. They are not the associations of the masses, he said. I think this is so correct today. If you take, the Brahma Samaj, the Arya Samaj, the Theosophical Society, it is 100% true. I think Jyotiba Phule could visualize the Aryan Brahmin, characterize the upper caste social reformers as Aryan Brahmin Samajas, that he identified the chief drawback or the weakness of these upper caste social reform movements. Therefore, he launched movements from below. I think that's what we have to calculate. So his movement is movement from below. And based on his pioneering historical critique of caste system and Brahmanism, Jyotiba Phule spearheaded multi-dimensional struggles to rebuild society on the principles of equality, justice and reason. In his battle against discriminatory Brahmanism, Phule was inspired by the egalitarian philosophy of Buddha and Kabir. He was certainly an admirer of the liberal democracies of the West, as he was educated in a missionary school and had read Thomas Paine's The Rights of Man, the French Revolution of 1879, and the democratic upheavals in America and Europe. Especially in reading of Paine's The Rights of Man and The Age of Reason in 1847 had left a deep imprint on him, as I was telling in the beginning, that that is where the innovativeness of the Phule ideology comes from. He consciously built his protest movement on the ideological, philosophical and cultural bedrock of the indigenous non-Vedic, non-Brahmanic, Buddhist, Brahmanic traditions. In fact, he saw his own movement as the continuation of those of Buddha, Kabir and Tukaram. Thus, Phule became the ideological and philosophical founder of the anti-caste movements in modern India, as he clearly saw a close relationship between knowledge and Brahmanical power. He visualized how knowledge and power by Brahmanical forces used to exclude, divide and dominate lower sections in society. He argued that, I quote, even before trying to overthrow the material power of the upper caste over the lower caste and over their own women, it was necessary to step out of the ideologies of Brahmanism, for which access to knowledge was an essential prerequisite, that is, one had to understand a system before one could dismantle it. Phule termed this understanding of knowledge as Tritiya Ratna, third eye, which was the means of destroying the Brahmanical hegemony. He argued that modern education has the power to see through hegemonic ideology, and hence he emphasized on the need to acquire knowledge and competence by Sudras and Asudras. Therefore, in 1948, the same year which saw the publication of the Communist Manifesto in the West, Phule established, defying the high caste backlash, a school in Pune for untouchable women, the first of its kind in colonial India. In striking contrast to the high caste social reformers like Ranade and Tilak, Phule believed that one radical ideology must be complemented by radical practice. He waged struggles at all levels, developing a radical reinterpretation of Indian history, culture, and mythology, and communicating it to people through popular plays, songs, tracts, and so on. So here what I would like to emphasize was the fact that the centrality of Sudra liberation was premised on a critique of Brahmanical Hinduism. And I think I don't have time to go into it, but Phule's writings like Gulamgiri, the Brahmanan Chakasap, the Shetkaryan Asud, and Ansprushanchi Kaifet, and a whole lot of his works, he in fact delineated the anti-caste ideology in crystal clear terms. And here I would like to focus on Phule's emphasis on education as emancipation. I think today it is very, very relevant, education as emancipation. Phule realized while the Sethji Barji, because of their access to land, access to power, access to knowledge, they are able to establish their hegemony and domination in the society. But of course, in the 19th century Maharashtra context, the Sethji and Barji were the owners of the land. They dominated the trade and commerce. They were merchant money lenders, and they were upper. Okay? So therefore, Phule understood that the dominance of the Sethji Barji was because of their control over the means of production, to use the Marxian term. Whereas the Sudras and Asudras have no access to the material production. They don't have land, they don't have industries, they don't have access to trade and commerce, they don't have access to knowledge. Therefore, they are helpless. they are oppressed and suppressed. Therefore, they are subordinate. I think in this kind of an analysis, Phule understood the only other source of empowerment for the Sudras and Asudras was education. Formal education. Because he, again, historically he analyzed in his books, in his writings, that the Vedic Brahmins enjoyed the privilege of access to knowledge, a kind of reservation. I mean, from Jyotiba Phule's writings, I draw the conclusion that Jyotiba Phule was the first one to say that reservations as a concept was actually enjoyed by the upper caste in Indian context, because they reserved for themselves access to knowledge, access to material production, and access to social dominance. So the other communities, the Sudras and Asudras, were deprived. They consciously maintained this reservation system. Historically, that's what I gather from Phule's writings. So therefore, what he wanted to destroy was that source of power, that source of domination by the upper caste, by the Sethi and Bhaji, that is education, access to education. Therefore, he welcomed it. He was the foremost social reformer of 20th century who wholeheartedly supported the Macaulay system of Western education. He realized it is through Western education that access to knowledge will be gained by the Sudras and Asudras. So therefore, of course, he praised the colonial rulers for having introduced the West education system, breaking the traditional education system. As we all know, in traditional India, the Gurukula system was the preserve of the Brahmins. The Madrasa system was the preserve of the upper caste Muslims. As opposed to the Gurukula system and the Madrasa system, we did not have an education system which would empower the Sudras and Asudras. So in India, it was denied to the Sudras and Asudras. Only Gurukulas and the Madrasas were for the benefit of the upper caste and upper classes. So therefore, he realized that the Christian missionaries' role in establishing Western education system in India. He thought through education they would be able to achieve access to employment. Through employment they will have access to, they will realize empowerment. Once they are empowered, they will become self-sufficient and dignified. So therefore his own thrust was not so much on of course he talked about land reforms, he talked about reforming the agrarian system and so on and so forth. But central to him was education. His memorandum to the Education Commission, Hunter Commission, this is a clear vindication of his stand, of his philosophy. He realized in the modern period, in the colonial context, it is not possible of a thorough land reforms. It was not possible to upset the property relationships in terms of a social revolution. So he only thought the best way to equip the Sudras and Asudras and empower them was through knowledge, was through gaining access to Western education. Therefore, he welcomed Christian missionaries. He welcomed the Western, the colonial education system. Of course, there are some people who misunderstood, and who, they also, some of the so-called, intellectuals, they also misunderstood Ambedkar. Ambedkar also praised colonialism for having introduced the Western education system, because it was a dent in the whole knowledge system. As we all know, in traditional India, knowledge was also power. Knowledge was also power. Whoever has the knowledge, access to knowledge, had access to power. So therefore, it was a kind of an attempt by the Macaulay system to break that, monopoly of knowledge. So therefore, Phule, in the 19th century, welcomed this colonial, an aspect of colonial modernity, because Phule was also a modernist. Having realized the impact of modern philosophical thought in the West and in America, he felt that Indian society will be transformed, it is possible to transform Indian society only through modernization. By modernization, he meant access to knowledge, access to education, access to power, organs of power, and dismantling the Brahmanical dominance. So therefore, Jyotiba Phule articulated the social revolution, social revolution by the Sudras through the instrumentality of an association. Therefore, he founded the Satyasodhak Samaj. The Satyasodhak Samaj, which was founded in 1873, was a vehicle, was an instrument to realize Phule's vision of Shudra emancipation. So the Satyasodhak, he had a vision of fundamental change in society and believed that the toiling castes that constituted the overwhelming majority of the Indian population should not be associated with Brahmanic organizations, so like Arya Samaj, Brahma Samaj, etc. He established a new society on the principles of equity, costlessness, rationality and justice. The Satyasodhak Samaj aimed to spread education among the lower castes and to make them aware of their rights and to liberate them out of the influence of the sacred books that were written by the Brahmins for their own survival. I think here it is very important. Phule's critique of the Brahmanical texts. In fact, he critiqued the Dharma Shastras, the Manusmriti, through his writings. And in fact, through the display of the tamashas, he ridiculed the sacredness of the Hindu texts, like the Vedas, Puranas, and others. So therefore, he visualized Satyasodhak Samaj as an alternative organization, as an alternative philosophy and theory of the Sudra masses. The ideology of Satyasodhak Samaj, based on Phule's ideological framework, which urged to unite all Sudra and Atsudra masses. Satyasodhak ideology rejected all kinds of Brahman domination and exploitation on the basis of religion and all religious sources of inequality. This was the most radical content of the Satyasodhak ideology, which was the heart of non-Brahmin movement. Revolting against Brahmanical culture, Satyasodhak Samaj sought to establish ideal society based on principles such as faith on one God, creator, rejection of any kind of intermediary between God and man, rejection of caste system and the basic fourfold Varna division of society, and believing on that man's supremacy is determined by his qualities and not by his caste. So the centrality of Satyasodhak was to emancipate the Sudra, Atsudra, the Sudras and Atsudras. In fact, if we read the contents of the Satyasodhak Samaj manifesto, one would be reminded of the Protestant Christian ethic of Phule's education system, educational philosophy. You see, the Protestant Christian ethic in Europe has in fact inculcated the principles of rationality and the principles of questioning. And it is to the credit of the Protestant Christian ethic that rationalism, nationalism, democracy have become the dominating ideologies of Europe in the 18th and 19th century. So similarly, Jyotiba Phule wanted to propagate his ideas of emancipation through the instrumentality of Satyasodhak Samaj as an alternative organization in which there is no place to the Brahmin, in which there is no place to the priest, in which there is no place as he visualized intermediary between the man and the God. So therefore he visualized emancipation through self-effort. So therefore he rejected the Vedic ideology and the religious ideology. And then as he believed education as an emancipating element as far as the Sudras and Atsudras was concerned, he had in fact through his organization had implemented some of his philosophical standpoints. For example, in Satyasodhak Samaj, there was no caste distinction. So there were Muslims, there were Dalits, there were Bahujans, of course there were upper castes. So he created an organization in which all communities coexist. All communities coexist. It's not a question of antagonism, although ideologically and philosophically he countered Brahmanical ideology, but as a practical, organizer of the organization, he wanted to bring about a kind of communal unity and communal identity, Hindu-Muslim identity. Women, I mean, of course, we may have to talk we have a separate seminar on Jyotiba Phule as the first feminist of modern India. So, but suffice it to say that he set a personal example of throwing open the organizations irrespective of caste, community and religion. Therefore, he created a notion of brotherhood, because this notion of brotherhood was significant for all the social revolutionary movements across the globe in the 19th century. So therefore, he, as I think one of the foremost researchers, Gail Omid, commented that Phule's practical social reform efforts were involved in aiding the two social groups considered lowest in the traditional Brahmanical culture, the women and the untouchables. In fact, as I said, the credit must be given to Jyotiba Phule, who not only influenced Savitribai Phule, the famous, feminist author and practitioner. It was also as a way to bring about social unity cutting across the caste community that Phule visualized his Satyasodhak Samaj. Therefore, as I said, since he has given importance to education, he advocated compulsory, universal and creative education, and he believed that education of women and the lower castes deserved priority. As I said in his memorandum, he made it very clear, because the lower caste and the women were the most suppressed of the Indian society, the victims of the Varna ideology and the caste system. So therefore, he began educating his wife Savitribai Phule at home, and also opened the first girls' school in India in 1848. I think here again I'll contrast Jyotiba Phule with Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, because Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar was credited for having given the women education in Bengal. But I think long before Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, it was Jyotiba Phule who started the female education institutions. And Jyotiba Phule sensitized through his activities, through his Satyasodhak Samaj, through his writings, through his tamashas, through his critiques, through his display of undermining the Brahmanical ideology. Phule sensitized the people and awakened them about the education and compelling the British government to make arrangements for education of all people of India. He fought for the right of education equally for all the people, regardless of the caste and class. He knew once the people are educated, they would fight themselves for their rights without any outside help and support. I think his famous quotation we all know, that without education, wisdom was lost. Without wisdom, morals were lost. Without morals, development was lost. Without development, wealth was lost. Without wealth, Sudras were ruined. So much has happened through lack of education. So that is the centrality of the Jyotiba Phule's emancipation. And finally, I would say today we are remembering Jyotiba Phule in the 21st century or 22nd century, in the context in which education, the aspirations of the lower caste, the lower orders of the Indian society, their aspirations for education and employment in the context of lack of land reforms is very, very significant. Therefore, it's in this context to be remembered that Jyotiba Phule's contribution for educating the Dalits and the Bahujans for their own emancipation. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Sorry, sir, the paucity of time here. So I did not summarize for the entire lecture of Professor Adapa, sir. If time permits, he will speak about the 3 hours of the lecture. Now I immediately call upon Professor I. Tirumali sir to deliver.
I don't know whether universities over here studying Jyotiba Phule. Jyotiba Phule is there in the course. Yeah? Huh? And as a student at Jawaharlal Nehru University, I asked one of our teachers whether we study in nationalism, whether we study Ambedkar. Very famous historian, I don't want to tell his name here. He was teaching nationalism. He said, we don't study Ambedkar because he is not nationalist. He is a pro-British. So in nationalism, we teach only nationalism. So Ambedkar is not part of nationalism. The teacher told me. When I joined Delhi University, I was taken into course committee, syllabus committee. Along with me, 3-4 who joined from Jawaharlal Nehru University, we are there in the committee. Social reform movements are studied everywhere. Ram Mohan Rai, Brahma Samaj, Radhana Samaj, Arya Samaj is a part of history course. Isn't it? Part of history course everywhere, every university. Same, it is there. So I suggested in the course committee, why not we include Pune? When we are studying Ram Mohan Rai, Dayananda, Ranade also. So why not Phule? Another famous historian, he was like Guru to me, of course, not Guru directly. He said, Tirumali, why do you bring in all controversial issues? He said, oh sir, it is not a controversial issue. I expected my colleagues who are new, joined Delhi University, I thought they support me, they didn't support me. They were keeping quiet. I had argument for some time. Ultimately, the course was Imperialism and Indian National Movement. I was to teach. So in that course, when imperialism, of course, there is no conflict, but the second part is in nationalism. In nationalism, Phule will not come, but ultimately, the course in charge, chairman of the course committee, agreed we insert a rubric like caste and Sanskritization. No Phule, nothing. Option is given to the concerned teacher. Whatever he teaches, let him teach. Caste and Sanskritization, meaning Phule raised caste question. and nationalism is against caste. Caste is a deviation from the idea of nation. And another dimension is there in the Phule. Phule aspiration was to get a upper caste status. That is what Sanskritization. His attempt was to Sanskritize himself and his communities so that they get a higher caste status. You might know Sanskritization thesis. What is the name? M.N. Srinivas. Sociologist M.N. Srinivas thesis. So that is how, anyhow, we didn't study. It is not there. Even till now also it is not there. Normally, there are so many problems there also. We are strictly Marxist. 100% Marxist. Deviated nationalist history to Nehru type of history to Marxism. That is what history. When I have submitted my PhD thesis on Telangana struggle, Telangana armed struggle, my guru, very liberal type of person, he said, Tirumali, you deviated from Center for Historical Studies. You have your own thesis, not our thesis. Okay, sir. Do you think it is worth getting PhD? He said, absolutely. You have demonstrated very well, and we all know only Sundaraya, P. Sundaraya and Telangana armed struggle. So Telangana people's struggle is basically led by the communists. But your argument is communists are led by the people. That is how I have shown from police records, etc. Then a famous historian, very dominating person in Center for Historical Studies. Every teacher has to take his consent. He is a big boss. So probably my guru must have told him, Tirumali, point is this. Then somewhere I happened to meet him. He said, Tirumali, I want to see your thesis. I have submitted already. I want to see your thesis. I have to, after 10, 15 days, I have gone to his home. He simply kept quiet. He kept it there on the table. And normally he is a very talkative. Talks. Do you write like this? Is it history? Something like that he argues, but he didn't argue anything. He kept quiet. I said, sir, I want your comments so that I will publish it. No. I don't give you yourself a teacher. I don't think you need my comments. Then he said, did subaltern people contact you? I said, no. So there are 2-3 historiographies in the country. Nationalist school, Center for Historical Studies deviated from Nationalist School of History Writing. Center for Historical Studies established Marxist historiography. So economic history, agriculture, how the economy decides the political movements, etc., that kind of approach. So another school has come, subaltern, you might have heard. Recently, Ranajitwa died, and here and there, he is the founder of that school. Here and there, some write-ups are there. So he asked, why are you not going to subaltern studies? I said, I deviate from that also. Why? They are studying people's movement. I said, people's movement ultimately not ultimate. People's movements will be there, movements, but movements will not decide political course. So for subaltern people, top political people are not there. People themselves are agitating. It is their consciousness, their activity studied by subaltern people. But my point here in Telangana is, ultimately, people's movement has got a shape of politics because Communist Party has given. Why Telangana people fought? They said very clearly, Sangham Rajyamu. Notion of Rajyamu is there in their minds. Why? Because against Dorala Rajyamu. It is struggle for state. Subaltern people are not arguing that. So there is no question of state to them. People's movement, so that means there is no unity. Their tribes are fighting, their castes are fighting, their something else is happening. But what is integrity? So what integrates all these movements? There's something must be there. And that one, which integrated all the people's movements was the idea of nation. That is most important. I have given my topic to them. Phule, idea of nation. So what really brought all these movements, all these people together to stand against the British was the idea of nation. And I want independence. I want British to go. Isn't it? Gandhi clearly said, peasants are more concerned about their village and the nation. If you tell peasant that your village will be destroyed, no, I don't accept. I fight. If you say peasants that your country is going to be destroyed, no, I will fight. So Gandhi tells peasant is not fighting just for land. That is what the communist agenda. Not for land ownership, but for ideology of nation. And at least it is true. By the time Mahatma Gandhi comes, it becomes ideology is a fact. What is there in Ram Mohan Rai agenda? What is there in Ranaday's agenda? All in the social reform movements. What is it? Agenda or two issues they have taken up: untouchability and woman reform, widow reform, widow remarriage. What is it? Why? These two things are necessary. And born, these organizations born in Western India, Eastern India and Punjab. But spread to all states. But why? If you have to become a nation of people, you have to get out of the medieval ideas, medieval way of life. Widowhood, child marriage, or sati, and practicing untouchability is wrong from the eyes of the modern colonial intellectual. So these people have become colonial intellectuals. And for colonial intellectuals, their own background appeared obscurantist and bad. And another serious problem they faced was India a nation? British challenge it. It is not a nation. French was a nation. German was a nation. England was a nation. India is not a nation because it is not bound by one language, one caste, one religious group. It is a heterogeneous country. It is only country. It cannot become a nation. That is what the Britishers' argument. So these people, Indian intelligentsia, who studied in universities set up by the colonial government, studied British historians like James Mill, etc. So they realized there is something wrong with us. We have to update ourselves to become nation. So that is why freedom struggle is not a freedom struggle alone, but of nationalist struggle. Movement for independence from the British is a factor. That is one aspect. The second aspect is we are driving out the British to become a nation, one people. Two objectives are there. So social reformers, as for the teachings we made, social reformers are the first people initiated the idea of nation by resolving the issue of medieval type of inadequacies like widowhood, child marriage, and untouchability. Untouchability, absolutely bad to tell the world that we are one. How do you say? You are keeping your own section of the people outside the village. How do you say they are your people? First to become, a nation of one people. That is why the woman issue, untouchability issue was taken up. So simultaneously, slightly later, 1930s, this kind of reform movements have begun, and in 1940s, Phule emerged as intellectual in Western India. Western India milieu was totally a different type of milieu. Till today, Western India is different because most powerful section of Western India was Chitpavana Brahmins. And Chitpavana Brahmins is the most powerful political class, unlike Brahmins in North India, South India. Brahmins in South India are nationalists. But there, they have driven Shivaji to take up a struggle against Mughals. Shivaji was Shudra. So when Phule has seen these Shudra communities in Maharashtra, they are touching the feet of Brahmins. And that he did not like. And why? Because Phule, Shivaji was promoted by them. Shivaji was given ideology. That is important. And till today, after Shivaji, Tilak, Savarkar, an entire base of Hindu nationalism, countering Indian national congregationalism, born in Western India. So Hindu nationalism basically birthplace is there because of Chitpavana Brahmins. So this, a peculiarity, Jyotiba Phule encountered. And what is real strength? And as one of our historians said, Ambedkar is a pro-British, etc. Here, in Jyotiba Phule, we will get an answer to this question. Jyotiba Phule tells, we are against British. He said, we welcome the British. But even then we are against British. We are against Brahmins. Why? Britishers are ruling this country through Brahmins. Who are the base of Britishers here? In a police department, Brahmins are there. Judiciary, Brahmins are there. Revenue department, Brahmins are there. The powerful lobby drawing salaries and pensions given by the Britishers. And how they are drawing? Because of the modern education. So therefore he tells, there is a powerful agency. Brahmins, very powerful agency. And not only ancient type, of course he refers to ancient texts, etc., how they have evolved, etc. But here, during mid-19th century, there are two faces to Brahmin. One is maintaining tradition. Another is leading the nation for nationalism. Two faces are there. They are prominent nationalists, emerging. Nationalism is a political form it did not take. But they are articulating the question also. Right? So that is why Phule point was, first you get education, modern education. If once we get a modern education, we have to seek jobs in the British. And so many jobs have become monopoly of the Brahmins. And Brahmins are modernizing, showing a modern face, modern leaders. That is to be encountered. That is what he tells us. So he is now putting not British as an enemy. He tells very clearly said by this time, the character of the British rule changed to mercantilism, to industrial. British rule has three phases. So in the industrial phase, what happened is Indian raw material goes to England. Indian finished goods coming back to India. And we are consumers of finished goods and suppliers of raw material. And that equation is a critical of that. You are taking away from here and bringing back, and we are losing our professions here. So Saleh people, Padma Saleh community, powerful group behind him, they are the first sufferers. Next two groups suffered. First peasants, they were forced to produce cotton. Second is artisans lost their work. And this is what at that time actually I am not aware. And he is raising a fundamental national question. So only after retirement I have been reading. I have written recently a book on India, nationalist people. Actually, national question is from the people's side it has come like this. Phule first proposed it. So national means what? National means including those who are here supporting imperialism. Concept of imperialism and colonialism both are not there to Phule. Did not mature. Phule argument did not mature to that extent. But he knows idea of nation. So that is how he organized these people, because they are sufferers. And why British Brahmins? Brahmins are the people who are fixing land revenue. Land revenue was very heavy. 1/6 of the gross produce. Nationalists, all nationalists agreed. But who is fixing? Do you think collector is coming and fixing land revenue? No. Village officer is fixing. And village officer also he has seen and what dimension that change in the villages in Deccan. Panch system, panchayati system has been replaced by officer. And another powerful institution in the village came into being was Kulkarni. So just like our Karanam here, Kulkarni institution has come and Kulkarni decides everything. Patel, known in Maharashtra, Patil, and Patils have gone. Patil Sudras. So this kind of dimension Phule has seen. Therefore, he wanted all Shudras come together against Brahmin, primarily Brahmin. So fighting Brahmin means fighting imperialism, fighting British. That is how he articulated. In this Mali caste, Kumbhars means our Kumbari, carpenters, and many other communities like this joined him, and it became, Satyashodhaka became a powerful organization. And the next what happened was, next another stage has come. And this is most relevant today, since we are discussing this in the context of today's relevance. So he confronted a problem. Maratha, and he wanted all Marathi speaking people can be characterized, can be defined as Marathas, but is not happened. Maratha community, Kumbhi community became rich type of a community and behaving like powerful people there, like in South India. Reddy, Kamma, Vakkaliga, Nair, just like this kind of community, Kumbhi became Maratha. Maratha is a militancy. Some here in Andhra also, Reddys characterize themselves as Kshatriyas. And same here, Marathas, they say no, we are Kshatriyas. We are not inferior to Brahmins. And then under this category, many people have come. Yes, we are warriors. Mahar, for instance. Number of Mahars means like our Malas. They were in British army. Not only medieval, here also, Malas are army men under Shivaji. Malas is militant community. Mars throughout the country, the militant community. So therefore, they also claimed, yes, we are Kshatriyas. So Kshatriya has become a broader category. Initially he thought he will include Kshatriyas also here. So two problems have come before him. One is Maratha. Initially thought all Marathas must come together against Brahmin. But Marathas are Kundis, rich peasants. Similarly, Kshatriya. In this context, he used the term Shudra, Ati Shudra. So they are Shudras. Shudras have to be here. But Ati Shudras have to get their own independent identity, preparing the lowest sections, if necessary, fight Shudras. So Shudras means peasant communities. So that is what is a term, Ati Shudra. And he paid more attention to Mahangs and Mahars to join the movement. He addressed them, brought them together, and the movement was built. So this evolution, what appears to us, Phule, he wanted education, he wanted Brahmin domination to go, and ultimately uniting all Shudras, and Shudras emerging as a powerful group. And it's very clear in South India, little later, not during his time. So the Brahmins remained powerful there, but Shudras either may go to Brahmin side or this side. Unbelievable. Shudras, unbelievable community, but even then he did not speak against them, but preparing Ati Shudras to organize themselves. Right? What is it? It is a part of the idea of a nation. So nation means to social reformers educating or developing women as independent individuals, not subordinate to men. And similarly, untouchability must go. That is what is practically proved. Nation means everybody should have equal status. Shudras are becoming dominant, other Shudras must be there. It is this idea of nation means if all are becoming one, that is a nation. That is what actually constructed the idea of nation. But unfortunately, we did not understand this, and we did not understand this kind of course when we were there. Only recently I have come to this kind of conclusion, but the ultimate objective of independence was to make India a nation. Tilak said sometime later, when the idea of a nation has come, and he is talking as a Hindu leader. So some people asked, how do you make a Hindu nation? But he is a strong congressman, unlike others. So he said, nation is in the making. It's not at a nation. So nation means everybody interest will be protected, and we have to go to such level. And we did not go to such level. Therefore Hindus will be there. Hindus means, in other words, Chitpavana Brahmins, most powerful Brahmin community. For 200 years, from the days of Tilak, Shivaji, continue till today. The dominant community in Western India. So therefore, Brahmins also should be there. That is what actually is the point. The shift has taken place by that time, because many Brahmins have become nationalists. Nationalists means they stand for the for independence. But taking clue from Phule, Ambedkar, there is one Mahar leader also along with him. He was also writing. So Ambedkar started constructing in a nation. It's not against the British. One might say he was member of the Governor General Council after 1942. He is a labor member. Governor General Council is the cabinet. So that is why one might say. But same thing in 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru became Governor General Council Vice Chairman. Vice Chairman means what? Prime Minister. He was already Prime Minister before India gets independence. So that is why it is the government. One cannot say that no, we don't want your government and boycott it. If boycotting means Mahatma Gandhi boycotted, I don't want any of your positions and all. Right? So that is how it is evolving. The idea of a nation is evolving in that actually initiated by Phule. And today, Indian Constitution also mentioned why Article 340, 41, 42 inserted. These three articles are inserted because India has to become a nation. India was not a nation as long as we have untouchables in this country, as long as we have Adivasis in this country, as long as we have socially, educationally backward. It is called a socially, educationally backward by the Constituent Assembly. Earlier, it was backward caste. In South India, first time South Indians used Mysore, used backward caste, notion of backward caste. It became OBC in Constitution. So these people, that means the diversity has been accepted because of these struggles by the Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly agrees it is not one, we are not a nation. We have to become a nation. If we have to become a nation, therefore 340, 41, 42 articles will be there. And we have to implement this kind of articles. Only then we become a nation. Till today, we are not a nation. Same continue, diversity is continuing, castes are continuing, and caste rivalry is continuing, caste riots are taking place. And in mid-19th century, we started the movement to make India a nation. It has not become a nation. It is yet to become a nation. And that is why I think today we have to take a clue from Phule. And Phule tried to educate this kind of people, try to unite them, educate them. Education, more important, it tells. And through education, you become modern. If there is no education, you are not a modern. Nation is a concept of modern India. So you have to become modern and you have to fight it. And the agenda initiated at the time, agreed by the Constitution, is a fact. The Constituent Assembly agreed. But the Constituent Assembly agreed, it is not over. At least in 10 years, the caste would have gone. They expected in 10 years caste will go. It did not go. So that means the agenda, nation in the making agenda is still there. And therefore, we have to study the idea of nation and why it has not become a nation. And what kind of movements are to be initiated. And we have to evolve a program. And there are, as we expected, Shudras have already become a ruling class. That is one advantage now to them. Earlier only Brahmins were ruling class. But Shudras became ruling class. So it is power, political power in the states in Shudras' hands. And Shudra, in sometimes Brahmins are people, there is no Brahmin prime minister today. And all chief ministers, most of the chief ministers, maybe except Orissa, most of the chief ministers, maybe UP. UP also Kayastha, not Brahmin. So this kind of change has taken place. Last 70 years, Shudras have become a ruling class as Phule suspected. Shudras will not join along with others. Shudras came to power. Ati-Shudras did not come to power. And Ati-Shudra movement has to continue till entire constitution in toto implemented. That is what I think we have to, that is what I think, in my opinion, relevance of Phule today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for two wonderful talks. Professor Adapa Satyanarayana, sir, as Mahatma Phule as a social reformer, and also the Tirumali sir talk on the idea of nation, Phule ideas. So now the hall for open for a few questions, answers, and then we'll go to the lunch at guest house. Shish.
Norma. So I was so skeptic about the the idea of nation of the Phule, the one thing, because what kind of idea actually he had, because is it the Schmittian kind of idea, like for example a nation and nationalism is a kind of pejorative sense, and you have to what exactly make a distinction between enemy and friend, and then only what exactly we have to what exactly kind of demarcation between these two, then only we can establish nation. This is what exactly even all the people like Alex Willner and Hobsbawm and all people actually what exactly talking about this line. And what was the Phule's idea? For example, when you talk about like nation in the making of in the process of making or something, so what kind of so he wanted to what exactly eradicate or even make a kind of clear distinction between this friend and enemy kind of thing. That is what exactly one of the thing. And the other thing is what exactly, see, when we are talking about like historical ontology, for example, he was saying that we are not organized in such a way, but the problem of the BC communities, for example, here, so it is all, I think, so we have actually, we should take actually kind of idea of alienation, for example, because we have not been alienated. For example, I am just coming from a particular community, and then I had a kind of relation with other caste. So then I never have kind of sense of alienation. Then I do not actually realize my social existence. That is what is a kind of ontology. So then how could I realize? So that is the biggest thing actually where we should work on this, because this is a kind of epistemological problem. Epistemology, what exactly he said, we have to what exactly redefine the BC or backward, and then so please could you actually talk about this?
I am not sure whether Jyoti used the term nation, but he is becoming a party to the emergence of the idea of nation. But he used the term jati. Jati not necessarily nation. Jati may be caste from the point of view of North India and Maharashtra. So, but in Telugu context, jati is a nation. Right? So that much of clarity Phule, I don't think Phule had. But it was the age of nation. Age of nations, nationalities. As Marxist historians in England and other places say, it is true also. All nationalisms matured into democracies during the Second World War. Right? So that means nation, becoming a nation is a part of democratic process, a part of independence. That is what happening. And all these people, including Gandhi goes to untouchables, names them Harijans, and lives with them. And many others, they used to go simply because integrate them. And he conducts what is called Khilafat, to integrate Muslims. So attempt is to integrate everybody. But Gandhi did not take like Phule. Phule takes a stand from below. Gandhi did not take a stand from below because he wanted everybody. He is coordinating everybody. So his main aim is India must be free from the British. That is what his aim. What kind of character? Many people asked him. He said, that we decide later. Must be free. That is what he said. So, but even in this also, lot of change is there. Do you think today outcasts are touching the feet of superior caste today? No. There is enormous enlightenment. If you abuse them, they will go to court. They will go to police station. Individuality, democracy has given. Personality, he has given to these people. There is a personality. Do you abuse me? Earlier when they were abused, Dorani Dandam Perta. So today they don't say. Right? So that means democracy has given this kind of idea, and they are ready to fight. To untouchables today, do you think any powerful leader is required? No, they know they have to fight. Today you see here, there is no backward caste leader here. You have Visaradan for scheduled caste, You have Praveen. You have many more. But do you have such kind of a leader for backward caste? No. Backward caste not homogeneous. Scheduled caste homogeneous. Why homogeneous? Because they are untouchables. Untouchability is bringing them together. And they are one. There was no problem to categorize them in the 1935 Act as a scheduled caste. 1935 Act accepted as a scheduled caste. And in 1946 also there is no controversy. Yes, they are one. But who are these artisans? Who are these service castes? How to name them? Is there a common name? There is no common name. But even then, Constituent Assembly discussed about them. Because it should also, they are also subjects of caste domination. They should go. Ultimately they thought socially, educationally backward caste. Even Shudra they did not use. If they used Sudras, for instance, Shudra was in currency at that time, the debate. And all these people, Kammas and Reddys and upgraded castes, they would have joined. They would have come under Article 340. But Constituent Assembly was aware. Our Reddy, what is his name? Kattamanchi Ramalinga Reddy. Kattamanchi Ramalinga Reddy, as a non-Brahmin politician, a member of the Constituent Assembly, he wanted Reddys to be included in 340. But there was awareness among all these people. No. They said, he is a friend of Jinnah. He is a friend of Ambedkar, very close to Ambedkar. Regular means because, so by joining Ambedkar, he thought that, Reddys would also get some kind of reservation. But Constituent Assembly, excellent decision they have taken. They are not ruling class. Sudras were not ruling class at that time. Today they are ruling class. They expected it. So that is how we are progressing continuously. Perhaps we are on the way to achieve nation, idea of nation. Scheduled castes have come on their own. They are standing on their own. If you say you are untouchable, they are ready to fight. That kind of personality has come. And backward castes are fighting backward castes. One problem is all those who are neither upper caste, nor SCs, nor STs are backward caste. There is no proper definition. They did not fit into upper caste category. They did not fit into SC category. They did not fit into backward ST category. The left out community has become backward caste. Morning, our Vice-Chancellor was saying this difference is there. So ultimately, who are they? Very recently, 1980, nomadic tribes included in backward caste. You see, how many 3 categories are there? 3 or 4 categories. Poorer peasants with lower status are backward caste. Artisans backward caste. Service caste backward caste. Nomadic tribes backward caste. Therefore, there is no unity among them. I doubt they will become a ruling class. Because ideology, common ideology has not come. And before that, perhaps, scheduled caste may lead the nation. We have seen Ambedkar has given excellent leadership in the Constituent Assembly, even outside. And another one recently, what is his name? Kanshiram has given excellent leadership, and he coined the term Bahujan, Dalit Bahujan. Dalit Bahujan was not there during Phule time. So Dalits and with them Bahujans, right? So that is how I think there is, but struggle is going on. We have to become a nation is a fact. Who will lead and what will happen, we cannot say now. But definitely struggle will continue. The independent 1947 did not solve a problem. A real problem has come.
and eminent personalities. We will be continue for this legacy in future also. So I extend my sincere thanks to all the participants and also the main speakers. Please join us with lunch at guest house. Okay, we'll come back 2:15 or 2:20. 2:30 next session and last session.